Raise your hand if you've ever been punched in the stomach. It hurts. In the short film titled They, Them, written and directed by Bo Bufil, the protagonist Ash states, "It's like every time someone calls me she, it's a punch to the gut, but I don't feel male either. Every time someone calls you by the name you don't want them to call you or refers to you using the wrong pronouns. Every single time, oh, he looks so nice today. It's a punch to the gut. You wake up in the morning, you look in the mirror, distraught to see the body that doesn't match with your identity. It only gets worse when you go to school and the teachers call you by the name you've been given but don't feel is yours. Or when your parents greet you with a good morning sun. While it may seem inconceivable to feel discomfort because of your gender identity, people with gender dysphoria know it all too well. Gender dysphoria is when one feels discomfort due to their gender identity, which is how one perceives their gender, because it may differ from one's biological sex. And people with gender dysphoria may feel uncomfortable in their own bodies. One individual who has experienced gender dysphoria is transgender individual JD, who was a subject in photographer Saga Wismath's photos. And in addition to photographing their subjects, Wismath also interviewed them. And one of the questions they asked each person was, "What does gender dysphoria mean to you?" To which JD replied, "What comes to mind is a strong feeling of disorientation, seeing an offset image or looking in parts of a fragmented mirror and seeing someone else's body reflected." And in addition to the disorientation JD describes, people with gender dysphoria may also experience stress, anxiety, depression, unease, low self-esteem, and other symptoms seen in many textbook definitions of gender dysphoria. But what these definitions of gender dysphoria are missing is that sometimes people with gender dysphoria may experience so much discomfort that they can't leave their houses. And while maybe at home they don't have to endure anyone misgendering them, and misgendering means identifying that person as the wrong gender, they're still stuck in bodies that don't feel like home. According to the Polaris Teen Center, in 2019, 150,000 teenagers in the United States, ages 13 to 17, identified as transgender. That is 650 times the number of students in the Saddle River Day Upper School. And these young people are members of a society in which being cisgender or identifying as the gender that aligns with the sex you were assigned at birth is the norm. And we're exposed to this cisnormativity all the time. Take men's or women's bathrooms. Where do the gender diverse, or people whose gender identities do not align with man or woman go? Where do they fit? And this norm is really harmful to people who don't fit in. A Trevor Project 2021 survey found that 75% of LGBTQ+ individuals have had at least one experience with discrimination in their lifetime that was based on their gender identity or sexuality. And these experiences can really worsen the mental health of those individuals who experience them and can even lead to suicide. The Trevor Project 2020 National Survey on LGBTQ+ mental health found that in 2020, 48% of LGBTQ+ youth tried to harm themselves throughout 2020, and 60% of those people were transgender or non-binary. And it gets even worse. Imagine you're a transgender minor in Texas. On April 27th of 2021, the Texas Senate passed Senate Bill 1646, which states that administering or even parents just consenting to their child using puberty suppression treatment, hormones, or surgery in order to transition, which means like help them change their gender, feel more comfortable in their own bodies, is classified as child abuse. Can you imagine you're a parent of a transgender kid or just any diverse kid, and now you're really limited in the things you can do to help them feel comfortable in their own bodies? A lawmaker, an expert in law, has control over the parenting of these kids that aren't theirs. They have control over your body, over the boobs you so desperately want to get rid of. But guess what? You can't. You just get to keep taking the hits until you can't anymore. According to the Trevor Project's 2021 National Survey on LGBTQ+ mental health, 42% of LGBTQ+ youth really seriously considered committing suicide. And over half of those people were transgender or non-binary. And the 238 anti-LGBTQ+ bills that were signed between January of 2022 and March of 2022 are definitely not helping. That is 3 bills a day lawmakers proposed and then signed that are making it really difficult for LGBTQ+ individuals to just be themselves. Nobody deserves anything preventing them from just being themselves. But thankfully, there are some things we can do to help improve the mental health of those individuals. When the loved ones of transgender or non-binary individuals use the pronouns that they wanted them to use, committed suicide at half the rate of those whose loved ones did not. Transgender or non-binary individuals who were able to change their name or gender markers on legal documents like their driver's license or birth certificate committed suicide at a much lower rate. In September of 2019, English singer Sam Smith changed their pronouns to they, them. I am still trying really hard to use the right pronouns. Respecting people's pronouns isn't easy, and we still have so much to learn. Like, there are other gender-neutral pronouns besides they, them pronouns. They're called neopronouns, like zir, z, fey, and other monosyllabic pronouns that I haven't mentioned. I was like, what? When I learned there were other gender-neutral pronouns. And, even though we have so much more information to learn, and this is going to be really, really hard for us to adjust to, especially since we have to throw everything we've been taught about gender for so long out the window, there are some small things we can start doing. Like putting your pronouns at the end of every email, putting them next to your name on Zoom, putting them in your social media bios, asking for people's pronouns when you meet them, giving them yours when you introduce yourself, trying your best to use the correct pronouns after someone has changed them, using gender-neutral greetings, hi everyone, hi friends, instead of saying things like ladies and gentlemen. Using they, them pronouns and other gender-neutral terminology when having a discussion, saying things like their instead of his or her. And if someone changes their name, call them by the name they ask you to call them. If we can start by doing all of these small things, we can have such a big impact. We can no longer expect students to bring his or her notebook to class. We must expect it from them. People try new things all the time, right? And they might not succeed the first time. You might not either. But we have to start trying because that is the first step towards being inclusive. You are valid. Your struggles are valid. You deserve to be included. Thank you.